Good morning, friends. In our previous video, we discussed all the key amendments, clarifications and announcements made in Budget 2021 by our Honorable Finance Minister, which were relevant for NGOs. There are still many confusions and fuss around related to the amendments so made, which needs a lot more clarity. Today in this video, we have come up not only with a detailed analysis of each such key amendments made to develop a better understanding and clarity on the Budget 2021, but also the impact on the workings of charitable organizations in coming future. So let's discuss it one by one. As by now you must be aware the prescribed limit for claiming blanket exemption by universities or educational institutions and hospitals under section 1023C clause 3AD and clause 3AE respectively has been increased from rupees 1 crore to rupees 5 crores. Such limit shall be applicable with effect from 1st April 2021. This is a welcome amendment for small and medium educational and medical organizations, as it will reduce the compliance burden of such institutions working for the betterment and welfare of the society as a whole. However, there is one catch in the amendment which most of you might have missed out. In the existing law, the limit of rupees 1 crore was for each institution under an organization. I repeat, in the existing law, the limit of rupees 1 crore was for each institution under an organization, as it was mentioned, aggregate annual receipts of such university or educational institution or hospital, as was also interpreted as such by various courts in their judgment. But with the current amendment, the limit of rupees 5 crore shall apply to the organization as a whole, irrespective of the number of institutions being run under its banner, because in the new law the words "such limit shall be applicable to the SSE with respect to the aggregate receipts." I repeat, such limit shall be applicable to the SSE with respect to the aggregate receipts from university or universities or educational institution or institutions, hospital or hospitals have been used. As was also pointed out in the previous budget, once again the elimination of double deduction in case of charitable institutions, trusts, etc. carrying out religious or charitable activities was stressed upon. Section 12AB shall come into force with effect from 1st April 2021, and henceforth such organizations can either claim deduction under clause 23C of section 10 or section 11 and 12 of the Income Tax Act. It seems that the process of renewal of registrations under section 12A and 80G shall begin from April 1, 2021, but still no clarity was provided on the new forms and when they shall be made available on the income tax portal. With the new section coming into force, the erstwhile section 12AA shall become inoperative, and with that the perpetual validity of the registration shall stand withdrawn. All the organizations shall now have to renew their registrations under section 12AB and 80G in every 5 years. Now comes the discussion on one of the most important amendment that has been made with respect to the corpus donations received by such charitable trusts. The corpus donation shall now be exempt only on the condition that such donations shall have to be kept invested or deposited in one or more of the forms maintained specifically for such corpus and as laid down in section 11 subsection 5 of the Income Tax Act. I repeat, the corpus donation shall now be exempt only and only on the condition that such donations shall have to be kept invested or deposited in one or more forms maintained specifically for such corpus and as laid down in section 11 subsection 5 of the Act. Moreover, any application out of such corpus shall not be considered as an application for charitable or religious purposes. It was noticed that many organizations were claiming exemption at the time of receipt of corpus donation, which was in line with section 11(1)(d), but they were also considering the amount spent from such donations to be an application towards the income, which actually ended up in double benefit for the same amount. As per our view, the intention of the legislation was same even previous to the amendment, that the corpus should be kept separately invested and should not be utilized. But it seems that now it shall be specifically incorporated in the relevant sections. However, it has also been proposed that when such applied amount shall be invested or deposited back as corpus, such amount shall be allowed as an application in the previous year in which it was so invested or deposited back. This implies in the year of application made out of the corpus, such expense shall not be considered within the 85% mandatory application while preparing computation of income. I repeat, this implies in the year of application made out of the corpus, such expense shall not be considered within the 85% application while preparing computation of income. It shall be considered as an application only when the corpus amount shall be reinstated by depositing back the amount in the modes or forms laid down in the Act, only to the extent of such deposit. Another major step to stop availing of double deduction by the charitable organizations, the organizations which were spending the loan or the borrowings amount to cover the mandatory 85% application, shall now not be allowed to do so. It was noticed that certain organizations used to include the money spent from advances as an application, and again at the time of repayment of such advance, the amount was considered to be an application, which amounted to double benefit whether intended or not. Due to lack of clarity, many organizations were taking undue advantage by interpreting the law as per their convenience. So now specifically it shall be incorporated in law that any amount spent from such borrowings shall not be considered as an application. In fact, only in the year of repayment of such borrowings, the application shall be allowed to the extent of repayment done. We too completely agree with this view, as it seems to be technically correct, and in fact, as an advisory to the clients, we never suggested claiming the repayment of borrowed amount as an application where the amount already spent from such borrowings have been claimed so. The next clarification in the budget can be considered as a setback for charitable organizations, because the set-off or deduction or allowance of any excess application in any of the year preceding the previous year shall not be allowed to be adjusted in the next year. Let me make you aware that various courts, including the apex court, I repeat, various courts including the apex court, that is the Supreme Court, have ruled that the charitable organizations are eligible to carry forward the excess amount applied in previous year, and it should be allowed within the mandatory 85% application of the subsequent year. It was a very welcome judgment by the Honorable Supreme Court in the case of Subros Educational Society, and even we were of the view that similar to their corporate counterparts, even charitable organizations should get the benefit of carrying forward the excess application of a particular year, like carry forward of losses by the corporates. But with this amendment, such rulings and interpretations has been finally put to rest. So now an organization that have actually spent more than 85% or more than the current year's total income in a particular year, the excess application shall not be allowed to be carried forward and considered as one of the components in the next year's mandatory 85% application. With the next amendment, it is evident that the government is focused and committed in bringing greater efficiency, transparency and accountability in the assessment procedures. Now, apart from the faceless assessment and faceless appeal, even the proceedings before the Income Tax Appellate Tribunal shall now be faceless with dynamic jurisdiction. This have come as a great relief to the taxpayers and will enable them to present their case with ease before the concerned authority. Let's come to the next amendment. It seems that in order to increase the compliance within the timelines prescribed in the Act, the time limit for filing revised returns or belated returns has been further reduced, and now the same has to be done 3 months before the end of the assessment year or completion of the assessment, whichever is earlier. This implies the compliance window for filing the revised or belated returns shall be kept open only up to 31st December of the relevant year. So it's time to wake up and stop relaxing till the last date every year to file your income tax returns. It has now become all the more necessary to file it within time so that in case of any unintended error, the same can be revised on time. In another major amendment, the provisions for reopening of assessment proceedings under Section 148 of the Income Tax Act have been rationalized by reducing the possibility of such reopening of cases by the assessing officers from previous 6 years to 3 years, except in case of serious tax evasions where the amount of concealment involved is more than rupees 50 lakhs per year. This implies the genuine organizations need not worry of the harassment by the income tax authorities for reopening of cases beyond 3 years. The 9th amendment I would like to discuss about is the provisions related to the deposit of employee contribution deducted towards various welfare funds by amending clause 5A of section 36 subsection 1 and section 43B. It was evident from the budget that any delay in deposit of employee contribution by the employer shall not be allowed by the income tax department while computing the total income and tax payable by the employer. Now you must be thinking that how does it impact NGOs as they are tax exempted? I would like to clarify that even for charitable organizations, such payments might be added to the total income of the assessee, thus increasing the mandatory 85% amount they need to apply during the year. The last and very critical amendment made by the Budget 2021, which I would like to discuss, is the insertion of new section 206AB for deduction of TDS at higher rates for non-filers of income tax return. It was found that many persons who are liable to substantial amount of TDS deduction does not file their income tax return. In order to ensure compliance by such persons, the government has further tightened the norms and provided for increased rate of TDS deduction. The rate specified for such non-filers is twice the rate specified in the relevant section or twice the rate in force or 5%, whichever is higher. The specified person, that is the non-filer, has been defined specifically in the provisions of this section. Such person should not have filed the return of income for previous 2 years and the time limit for filing the same has also expired. Apart from this, the aggregate amount of TDS and TCS deducted in case of such person is more than rupees 50,000 in each of the previous year. I repeat the definition again. The specified person, that is the non-filer, has been defined specifically in the provisions of the section. Such person should not have filed the return of income for previous 2 years and the time limit for filing such returns has also expired. Apart from this, the aggregate amount of TDS and TCS deducted in case of such person by the organization is more than rupees 50,000 in each of the previous year. Thus, we are of the view that apart from the copy of PAN card, the organizations shall now have to ask for the copy of income tax return filed or at least take a declaration of confirmation of such returns filed from their major contractors whose TDS crossed the threshold limit of rupees 50,000 in the previous 2 years to ensure whether the TDS shall be deducted as specified in the relevant section or at a higher rate under the new provisions. I hope we have covered a detailed discussion on all the major amendments which were relevant for the NGOs in the Budget 2021. Still, for any clarifications, doubts and opinions, you can contact us via email, WhatsApp or comment below. Thank you.